Okay. So I know there's maybe at least one person at least been wanting to hear my thoughts on a particular game, Conception 2. But I have a double surprise. This will be a Forced Depressions on Conception 2 and Conception 1. Yeah, shocking. I got Conception 1. Now, you might be like, why did I get Conception 1? Because I have always went on record saying it's really hard for me to really talk about this game. And I thought playing Conception 1 would give me some ideas. And obviously add my collection since I have the second one. And interestingly, these games are similar, and yet it makes me feel like the sequel did not live up to what the first game did. Now, I'd say, considering the time period that Conception 1 came out, it was probably a more interesting game. Conception 2 didn't really change a lot. If anything, it actually took more away. You see all these little faces on that cover here? All these little faces on the sides? Those are all the goals you can have a relationship in this one. That's a lot more than this one. And yet this is on a more sophisticated system, So it makes you wonder why that was scaled back for one. You have a lot more characters in this one. So far, I find the characters more interesting, and the setting a little more interesting. Mainly, that starts in a world like ours, and two characters get abducted into another world. Not a whole lot more, but I'd say that sounds a lot more interesting than the weird fucking world in this, where monsters have existed in a weird semi-earth world. I don't know. I don't know. But both of them play very similarly. They have a dungeon layout, you encounter monsters, and you flip around them on the fields. When you're in battle, basically you have the front, back, and the sides of your target. And certain spots, depending on the monster, can do additional damage because that's a weakness. And when a monster does an attack or something, varying on what it is, like if it's just a melee attack in one spot, if you can get your turn, you can actually move out of the way and completely avoid that attack now. So, combat is pretty simple to understand, really. It's not incredibly complex. What the whole game really strive to come from is your Star Children. Basically, contrary to the title of Conception, you're not actually having real children. You basically have kind of weird spiritual children. I don't even know how to fucking describe this shit. Who came up with this shit? Who came up with this stuff? But you have weird pseudo spiritual thing, and you have weird midgets get born from it, and each goal in each game affects different stats and that. So the combination creates different Star Children. So different goals essentially make different Star Children useful. Like one may make better cleric or mages, while another would be better for different fighting classes or agility for thieves. So you kind of have to think about that. Now, there's a lot more variety of goals, like I said, in the first game. So there's a lot more different kinds of stat adjustments you can do with the first game. The second game, it's just me. Now, you might ask if the graphics are actually more improved in this one. Personally, I have to say nay. The 3D models are better, but they both primarily feature 2D graphics of, the characters with some movement to them and such. And it's not a huge improvement, really. Really, this is a very sad sequel. I thought I would have more better things to say about by getting this, but essentially, this has made me think worse of this. This is a cheap, coughed out sequel if you've played the first game, because there's not a lot added. It's a lot of reused content with a new cast of characters that's smaller, and it's just... Now, something that makes the game seem worse to me, I think it would have been more salvageable if the characters were more engaging. There's a lot of humor in the game, but it's a lot of dry humor and a lot of dry lines. It's kind of like what I had to say about Mind Zero. The cast isn't as engaging. There is no unique craziness to them or weaknesses or anything to make them really engaging to you, and it makes the whole experience feel really dry. Now, there is a lot of perverted humor in this one, and I would assume this is no different, even though I can't understand it. Actually, something creepy I found out about when looking into it, this character here is your cousin, actually. I'm done! No, from what I read, she's your cousin. It's like, oh, good lord, who made these games? I don't know. Personally, now I can really see why this game probably didn't come to America. And it really makes me surprised that this even came to America, really. The story to this one seems absolutely even more stupider, even though we're talking about two high school students getting abducted into an out world in this one. This one's just, I don't know. I feel like this is a better game from what I've played in a gameplay aspect, seeing more characters and variety of customization of your Star Children in that, and it has really essentially the same gameplay. So it really makes this sequel feel like crap. I can't recommend it. I can't recommend this series. I just, unless you're desperate for an RPG, I don't know what to really add. Now, the Star Children could have been an interesting thing to save this game, but from what I've played, the Star Children just become worthless as you get new ones. It's like a worst case scenario of Pokemon syndrome. You know, usually the average Pokemon player who's just going from A to B, beginning to end, will usually use probably up to 10, 15 Pokemon at most. They're not going to use all 150 plus whatever the hell more Pokemon there are in whatever particular adventure you're doing. And it's a worst case scenario of that, really. Your Star Children just get outdated and fucking dumped on the side. It's like you'll never touch them again. It's like they don't ever become able to become really better. You can always just make greater Star Children, improving your relationships and that, and make better Star Children. Your previous Star Children just become junk, outdated junk, and you have no attachment to them at all. You know, like in late Persona games, you know, you'll start being like, oh, but I don't want to sacrifice this one Persona. This is my, like, really kick-ass boss modeling Persona, but I can make this thing and then possibly get these abilities again. And it's like, you really actually have to be careful what the fuck you do in Persona, because you could really fuck up what you're doing. Now, of course, you could be like, you know, you could just put it in the book and buy a new one. You could if you actually have the money, but you know, that's actually really expensive at high level Personas. So if you have a lot of money, you're still making a bit of a big gamble now. There's no real emotional attachment to any of the Star Children. They're just little chibi characters, dull things you basically are throwing at enemies and outdating as soon as possible, really. It doesn't feel like there's any involvement with them. They're just lifeless puppets to you. It's sad to say, really, when you would think they would be more significant when they're some kind of weird spiritual children thing with other characters. It just... ugh. I don't know. It's really hard to recommend these games. They don't feel like they're really fun at all. Maybe if you're new to RPGs or something, they would be more engaging. But if you're somebody who's played lots and lots of RPGs, a lot of this is the same old kind of ideas that doesn't really engage with you very well. At most, if you like harem games, perverted jokes, and basically a dating sim kind of aspect, you might like these games. But if you want more involving lines, more character development, more engaging story, and more engaging combat, I don't really recommend this game. It really seems to more appeal to people who want the dating sim harem kind of thing. And, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I would really rather have better character development with that, I don't mind a harem kind of thing. But I want the characters to be more characters than just boobs and asses, you know what I mean? Really? I can't really, in my right mind, recommend either of these games, really. But, I mean, I feel like the first one's a more competent game, oddly enough. I just don't know from what I've played of the two, and I can't even understand the story or anything, which is funny. But yet the gameplay does not feel that different, aside from just slight different in the controls, because, you have two analog sticks on the Vita, so you can use one for the camera. The little analog stick on the PSP and the plus pad, you use the analog stick for movement and the plus pad to move the camera around. So obviously that makes that a little weird, but essentially they play really the same and shit. It's just, it doesn't feel like an actual sequel. It feels like a cheap shit that's just shoved out there. I really was actually hoping this would make me feel like this was more of an upgrade, but felt more like a shitty downgrade. It's really sad. It's really sad. I can't say I like the characters or what's going on in either one really very much. I mean, obviously the first one I can't understand the characters because it's in Japanese, and I just hate the whole plot of this second one so far. It's like the world, like these points in the world, demons spewing out, we can't do anything, and then like the main character, the God's gift, can go in and kill them with star children and I've seen some really fucking weird plots, but what the fuck is going on? What the I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a bad hentai story or something. But then again, that's probably what the priest in the game thinks too. Oh, I can't really recommend these games. I really can't. I just don't think they're engaging enough. Really, if you got a Vita and you're looking for a better RPG, Demon's Gaze, I think, has a lot more character to it and a lot more fun. And while Mind Zero has the dry humor line characters issue, its combat and gameplay is far more engaging also. This game's combat just seems like a snore to me. It doesn't keep me engaged. If you're new to RPGs, it probably won't be that bad. But if you're really, really old in RPGs, I don't see it really keeping you very entertained. Basically, if you see it for a cheap price, then maybe check it out. But for brand new, for a lot of money, I don't really recommend it. And that's really a shame. It's really a shame. Because I always want to encourage people to buy games new from, from a store that's going to lead money to the owners, publisher, the developers, and that, and encourage future releases and that. And I really feel bad saying that about this game because, who knows, if they made an Out Conception game, it might be kick-ass, and because of the sales, be like, nah. The game received a lot of mixed reviews in America for sure, so I don't know, it just doesn't really scream a lot of fun to me. Maybe after playing some more, maybe I'll do like a recap video to maybe change my mind, but as a first impressions of both these games, they don't seem engaging enough. The first game seems like it did a far more better job than the sequel, and it's just the story for the sequel just seems so far more stupid than the first game to me. It seems so weird, and not in a good way. But you know, not saying anything bad to anyone who likes these. They don't seem. They just don't seem interesting enough to somebody who's played tons of RPGs. So, those are my thoughts. I don't really recommend Conception 2. I don't really recommend it. And that really hurts me a lot. But like I said, check out Demon Gaze or Mind Zero if you're looking for a better RPG experience on your Vita. I recommend those for sure. So until next time, I hope somebody out there will forgive me for the pain I might have instilled